Yeah, I wonder if that stuff will start, like they have their arms crossed, like they're drinking wine, like this. This is so great. I don't know. They're going down the water slides. Fanny's going down the water slide at the Four Seasons swimming pool with her cocktail. I don't know what they're doing. Yeah, hopefully, I'm sure they took pictures. Now, we're probably not going to see them, but it would be nice to see them. What's up, Art Taylor? Says Kirby coming out yesterday and telling a reporter that Republicans should just give the border agents more money to process illegals. This baffles me. They're all behind Joe. The money they give to each person coming across the border is the money they should be using for agents. They let illegals fly without ID to anywhere, in the USA, all while Americans have to go through insane security. Kirby's a punk. The DNC campaigning for our Americans to stop procreating and building families at the same time, rolling out the red carpet for terrorists, drug traffickers, and others into our communities is insane. For 3+ years, this is passive reaction. This passive reaction to this is mind-boggling and heartbreaking. From Art Taylor. Good comment there. Yeah, that's their argument, is that the Republicans, I saw this, I think, from Morning Joe, the Mika show, and it was, let me see. They're saying that Trump wants the economy to crash, and they're saying Trump wants to open the border. I'm pretty sure I saw this today. Trump wants to open the border. Let me see if this is from him. They're kind of mental over here, which is, it's kind of hard to look away from these train crashes. This is the Morning Joe thread. Yeah, here it is. You're running against a party whose two platforms are let the economy crash and keep the border open. Are you nuts? Your team just won the right to cut wire to allow people in, literally to keep the border open. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? So, anyways, they're going to try to reframe it as blaming Trump for keeping the border open. I don't think people are going to believe that at all. Because this has been Trump's most consistent issue. Liberty Clarga says he's making a joke. Please note an insane blink rate increase. Right, KJP, right. Yeah, he's making a joke. Yeah, no, seriously. No, I'm telling you the truth. I'm not nervous about this at all. It's definitely just him making a joke. Because they're blinking, their blinking goes off the charts. 1977 Beamer said Reed is also Eugene's funder. Yep, he did. He's funding the whole thing. Sandy says, sorry for the image of only links. Fixed it in the comment. New member today and don't know what I'm doing here yet. No, Sandy, I didn't.
Howdy.
No need to apologize at all.
What's up, Claiborne?
Great research, great report, and thank you for making the correction. So that will make it easier for everybody to access. And we're really grateful you're here.
I'm only going to go up. I'm going up to Monroe now, but I'm only going to be there for a few hours, so I'm probably not going to do a desktop from there. I got
all that hard work,
business dinner.
Click so they can see it.
And the haircut today. Haircut
Stay
right
live,
before the dinner.
Jump in, Jeff. No doubt. Okay, so my friends, let us leave it there. It's a beautiful day. We're gonna have a full day today. So Trump's in trial. E. Jean Carroll, speaking of her, and I'm pretty sure he's there based on security. Don't know if he's going to testify or not today. I hope he does. So we'll hear from that. I think we'll do a Texas update. We might have a Carrie Lake follow-up. We might have a Fannie Wade follow-up. We'll take a look and see. Thank you, KB. We had a couple super chats. Almost missed those. Let's see. A couple super chats. Thank you, my friend. Sorry, I almost missed these. Debbie O, what's up? Debbie says, Tucker made a statement about illegals. Yeah, estimating that 22 million are already here, according to Yale, and more info. Tucker, I think, was also speaking in Canada. He's had a lot of stuff happening lately, but I think I did see scrolled by that one. But I believe that totally. I don't believe 11 million. I think it's probably it might be even higher than that. It's a monstrous number. Which is why we hear people saying, like, we're just going to deport them all. Just as a matter of numbers, it can be a very tall task.
Tall order.
Yeah, I think.
All right, let's get Russell. He's ending the show. I'm gonna get Russell Brand on here. Let's get knocked again. Let's get another strike. Fix this first. Back it up to the beginning too.
So, plus the B, just tell me what P indicates. Those are sweeping us.
Oh yeah, all these dinners are tax write-offs. Pretty cool when you can write off a couple shots of Buffalo Trace.
Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Thanks for joining me today for Stay Free with Russell Brand. We're going to be talking about mutant coronavirus strain. Obviously, we ain't doing that on YouTube. Too crazy, too WHO adverse. We've also got on this show a fantastic guest, Dr. Drew Hinsky.
Oh, nice.
With us. We're going to be talking about, this is my favorite bit of the whole conversation. We're going to be talking about how he went from being an admirer, an adherent to Anthony Fauci, because they worked together, get this, around the AIDS pandemic, to being deeply cynical and suspicious of Fauci. This is a brilliant conversation. It's an education. You are going to love it. Of course, we're on YouTube. We love you, you Awakened Wonders, for the first 15 minutes, then freely on Rumble, where the speech might stream without impediment, without prohibition. And of course, you'll be told that it's actually hate speech that we're interested in conveying. Nothing could be further from the truth. As usual, the Orwellian language inversion is taking place. When we talk about love, when we talk about bringing people together, when we talk about inspiring your independent individual sovereignty, when we talk about control of your communities, when we talk about your right to be whoever you are, they consider that hate speech. Why? Because that brings us together to create the one force that can stop this globalist, elitist project. Unity among the people. Decentralized, that means we have control over our own lives, but unified in opposition to them. The first part of the show will be available on YouTube. Then download the app where we are, download the Rumble app, then you'll know every time we're broadcasting. And if you want to support our work and get additional content every single week, like this week, we did a brilliant report, if I may say so. I don't do all the work, there's a brilliant team of people working here on the agricultural protests. We got Vandana Shiva's views on why these agricultural protests are happening and how your food sovereignty relates to your freedom. It's kind of obvious. Why are there spontaneously protests all over the world? You are not going to want to miss this video. In fact, have a look at it. I don't think them farmers there at the Brandenburg Gate going, do you know what I'm sick and tired of? Dual-use toilets. You know, it's like they're trying to make it about the culture, because I think most people do respect the legitimacy of people to be different religions and culture. And I think most people are cool with that. What the issue is inequality and the oppression and annihilation of working people across the world because of the advance of automation and the requirement for totalitarian control. That's what it is, isn't it? Time now to get right into it. We'll let you watch the first part of our conversation, you wonderful people of YouTube, but this is a medical physician who's got strong views on a variety of subjects, including Anthony Fauci, so we won't be able to do the whole thing. You probably know Dr. Drew has been in media for years. He's a board-certified physician and legacy celebrity talent with over 35 years of national radio, New York Times best-selling books, and countless telly shows bearing his name. You can check out his work at drdrew.com. Plus, he's on Rumble streaming with his show, Ask Dr. Drew. Now, let's get into our conversation. Dr. Drew, thanks for joining us.
It's great to see you, sir. And as we were just starting to mention before the mics heated up, we were together a few years ago. We did a speech together about recovery. And as I think about our last meeting and then this one, many roads have been traveled. Would you have imagined the world would evolve the way it has?
No, and the only people that did imagine it were kind of peripheral, zealous, fringe evangelists that were at the time regarded as conspiracy theorists. I always felt that in our conversations before, because we're talking about medicine, we were talking about mental health, we were talking about addiction and wellness, I know that in our previous conversations we would have touched on the social implications of a condition like addiction, that addiction is somewhat related to social pressures. We may even have got as far as saying that the pharmaceutical industry possibly exploits addiction. We may not have been in a position to talk about Purdue and Big Pharma and the Sackler family and the way that the opioid crisis has been handled, but I know that's the kind of thing we would have touched on before. But as you say, we're in a very different territory now. From your perspective, Doc, what lines have been crossed, and how is it we've found ourselves here?
Well, so I've become a student of history because of this, and much to my shock. But I think I want to answer that two ways that are a little bit glib and a little bit just so. One is post-structuralism has taken hold in this country in particular in a way that has been destructive. The idea of truth has been undermined, and the reality is there is a truth, and our goal should be to ascend to some approximation of truth. We've forsaken that, and that has bled into science and everything, so that's a problem. Number two, that's the sort of historical sort of note, but number two, you mentioned the Sackler family and the excesses of the opioid industry, but the real perpetrators of the opioid crisis were evangelical physicians. In this country and in the UK as well, pain medicine became this cudgel that went around and forced physicians, sound familiar now, forced physicians to make pain the fifth vital sign. Pain was more important. To the point where 90% of the Vicodin prescribed in the world was prescribed in this country. That was not the drug company. That was me and my peers, not me. That was my peers. And evangelical physicians are dangerous. Fast forward to COVID. In this country, we have a Deborah Burks who evangelizes for lockdowns. Evangelical physician went state to state, governor to governor, and
they usually we don't get the. I mean, that for some reason it's a quarterly bonus. I'm not sure. Maybe that was
phenomenon, same
separate.
Playbook,
that's probably like last quarter because it was not the best. I've gotten much bigger ones, but business has been slow.
So. Both of which I'm fascinated by: the impact of post-structuralism and relativism, the idea that there perhaps is that there's a degree of ambiguity. And I'm sympathetic to the idea that there are institutions that have been deemed just and granted authority that could benefit from open-ended analysis. These are some of the areas of post-structuralism, not necessarily talking about semiotics and the semantic component of that, but certainly looking at power from an open-minded perspective. But also the idea that when you say evangelical physicians, it shows that there's a sort of component to prescribing medicine and issuing medical care that is emotional rather than practical. And the whole
these days for sure for sure, not only emotional but also social, because now we are having these movements in medicine where people are, I was a scientist, I was a clinician, and the idea that we have social movements within medicine and focusing on things that are, it's good that we're paying attention to these things, but that those are sweeping us away from science is really very, very concerning.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, and I don't know how or why that's happened, because the post-structuralist idea, does that lead to the over-emotionalization of
the truck was going to speed up that much.
I would have thought that it was quite an academic, quite cold, atheistic, materialistic, rationalistic ideology. Kind of hysteria in the medical profession.
But the hysteria was, the world, much to my amazement, seemed to be prone to this hysteria. You're absolutely right. So now, again, I was giving you just so things that came to mind when you asked your initial question. My other sort of frame is, and I know you'll agree with this, is we've had, particularly again in this country, a narcissistic term. The general trait structure of our personalities have gone towards what's called cluster B, borderline sociopath narcissist. And I'd not seen a lot of histrionic, but it was waiting in the background, clearly, with the hysterias right on the heels of it. And I can go on and on. I wrote a book about that 20 years ago, and it's something I can talk a great deal about. I saw it coming. I predicted. And I knew that the liability of narcissism is scapegoating. I knew there would be scapegoating, and I knew there would be mobs. And man, I didn't know it would look like this though.
Do you think that this narcissism and this emergence of
whoever's lurking, welcome.
conditions that would have before been regarded as extraordinary and maybe even rare, and certainly as problems?
Yeah.
It sounds like you're saying that become.
I started the stream a lot later than I normally do.
Individualism? What do you
Who
mean
knows?
by
I think
that?
Bow's
Everyone's
streaming
become
too.
Borderline sociopaths.
So
They'll probably hop in right when I'm getting ready to close the stream.
I'm an internist, but I worked in a psychiatric hospital.
That's what usually happens.
For 35 years. I ran the addiction services for 20 while I was practicing general medicine in a hospital in the outpatient setting. I've been 40 years in medicine. And in the early mid-'80s, when I first started working at the psychiatric hospital, I would look at all the admitting forms and patients coming in, and I would see there was always a window where we put in the personality diagnoses, and the psychiatrist would put in, I saw all kinds of these dependent personalities and obsessive,
Yeah, it's foggy still.
The full spectrum of the A, B, and C disorders that you find in the DSM-5. I noticed toward the end of the 80s, all of a sudden I was seeing in the female predominantly borderline, and by the 1990s, only cluster B. That's all we admitted to be patients. And I thought at the time, if you remember, I did a radio show back then, and I was talking to people, by the hundreds every night, and all I was hearing about was childhood trauma. And the outcome of childhood trauma is commonly a cluster B personality, at least trait, if not disorder.
That's right, because so that I understand probably cluster B. Can you just tell me what the indicators are?
That's the borderline narcissist, sociopath, and histrionic. Those are the cluster B disorders. They're considered the narcissistic disorder. And so having seen that evolution, I wrote a book in the 2008 or 10 or something, where we actually did personality inventories on celebrities, because I started seeing that they were really struggling with this stuff, a lot of trauma. You're shaking your head, and we documented that they had a higher incidence of narcissistic traits than other populations. And even our control population, we used our control population as business school students, and they were above previously documented average. It was very clear, everything was moving that direction, and it was all child issue. And as you know, as we used to discuss, one of the rocket fuels for addiction is trauma.
So do you think that there's been a greater increase in trauma or a tendency to diagnose trauma? What are the prevailing ambient factors that have caused this phenomenon?
So it took until the 2000s for my profession to go, adverse childhood experiences affect people's mental health. Amazing. Isn't that amazing? So they developed the ACE scale. Divorce, domestic abuse, somebody in the family in prison, somebody using substances. And if you have more than two of those, and of course overt trauma and all those sorts of things we would think of as trauma.
Yeah.
But in this world where families are decayed, where people are using substances, where there's a lot of violence and aggression, who isn't exposed to that? It's extremely common to be exposed to adverse childhood experience. And then add to that screens, you have no idea how that's amplifying everything and what they're being exposed to there, whether that's an independent trauma. So here we go. I mean, it is on. And of course, it's happening more than ever. The only period of history that I could find similar experiences of that kind of abandonment, neglect, and abuse of kids was pre-revolutionary France. And I wanted to write a chapter in my book about that. And I was told by the editor it was too speculative. I said, look, there's going to be, I just don't know, there's going to be guillotines, there's going to be mobs. That's what narcissists do. They have so much unregulated aggression, they have to form mob, focus on somebody else. And that's here we are now, cancellation, everybody. Welcome to our world.
So if you have a culture that fetishizes the individual, that is histrionic, narcissistic, social characteristics that you laid out, one
Piggy, piggy.
of the symptoms when that becomes ubiquitous is the emergence of scapegoating. It has to, the sort of culture of the society requires it. So revolutionary France, obviously, the guillotine practice, they had a visible, demonstrable, dramatic way. But you're saying that our culture is bearing those signs also. If something's happening at that scale, it can't be moving up through individuals, can it? Not there must be some sort of central social.
We ain't even on the speed limit, dude. Come on.
I haven't thought about that. What do you? It's an interesting question. You mean like somebody taking?
I mean, I can see he's on the phone.
And sort of,
I can see the phone in his hand.
Manipulating it some way.
It means, for me, my sense is that, you know, whether there was a radical increase in addiction, you think, well, why would that be? Is there the availability of substances? Is there economic inequality? Is there increased poverty? What are the social factors that likely lead to epidemic proportions being reached? And I feel that you indicated at the beginning that the values of the culture have shifted. I feel that that's true also. On some level, it's a difficult thing to entirely articulate. Some people in our chat saying the breakdown of the family, and I feel like we have lost our connection with God. I feel that our values have become narcissistic, that even identity politics, and I'm sympathetic to the civil rights movements around each of the categories, but what I sense is that the individual has become the sort of apex of value, that what you are as a person and what you feel and what you want is the kind of summit of the social values rather than who we are as a member of a community, who we are as a member of a movement, or even a nation or a religion. You know, I feel that plays across right now.
Yes, there's no doubt, right? I mean, one of the first couple of steps from substance use, which is letting go, not controlling everything, which means, you know, as many of my patients say, they feel like they're a piece of ass around which the whole world revolves. That needs to let go. You need to let go of being, no, you're not the center of the universe. And then but for people to do that fully, they have to have some sort of concept.
Now he's passing me.
Something. Okay, I don't know what that
I'm
is
doing
for
74.
everybody. It's kind of magical to me to some extent. But I
This
know
dumb
that
fuck
it's
behind me is
necessary
passing me.
to fully let go of their self.
Can't let me be in the lead.
Whether it's white-centric or Eurocentric, whatever centric it is, they have to let go. They have to let go.
Fucking ram.
As. Now, you know, doing that it sounds just so. It sounds like everyone should be able to do that. It isn't easy. It's not easy to do that, really. And to find out some sort of spiritual something, it's hard for people. But I do think we miss it. I've been saying this.
Now he's slowing down.
Years you have too. The last time we were together, I thought there was sort of clarity. There's something.
I'm using fucking cruise control, dude.
Emptiness. I don't. To me, I don't claim to be the carrier of that information, but I do think we need to solve it.
Yeah, you're right, because of course we were talking before about addiction, and you're kind enough to be on recovery. Radio show because meeting was flourishing at that time. But I do know that when we did the live event together, it was a print. We were talking about. You agreed with my interpretation of the 12 steps is about having, as you just described, a spiritual awakening and support of the community, ultimately being able to overcome the inclination to type of self-centeredness that you're describing in your cluster B diagnosis.
I want to interrupt you because I left out one thing. Someone commented on the last construct I was describing the lack of connection. The lack of connection is really what you're talking about. Lack of connection to other, lack of connection to community, lack of connection to God, lack of connection to self. Frankly, we are disconnected. And guess what trauma does? It disintegrates us, disconnects us. But I want to make one more comment because I think people will assail us for saying people aren't connected to their community. There is a phenomenon afoot right now I call grandiose care, which is still the narcissism. I care so much about this group, and then I care. I don't care what you care about. If you actually care about somebody, develop a skill, develop some sort of wisdom, and go and offer to a person. Don't stand on the stage and beat your chest and gnash your teeth. That is grandiose caring. That is narcissism. I'm glad you care. I want you to care about other people, but that is not going to help the present moment.
In Christianity, I know that it's significant to do God's work privately, quietly, and with humility, so that it doesn't become performative. And I guess a component of the scapegoating has become something that's often discussed: virtue performed publicly, the appearance of morality. And I was thinking about the culture at the moment. I was thinking, how are people getting it up, Dr. Drew, to talk about the Oscars or the Golden Globes when there is this immersive sense, that we are in some kind of crisis? I was so fascinated to hear your diagnosis, because it's one that I agree with, because continually from this odd global humanitarian perspective, people will continually cite confident statistics around, well, do you know more people have been pulled out of poverty than ever before, and the standard of living this, and this is better than ever. And I always feel like, I don't know that that's the reality a lot of people are living in. It feels like we're in a highly precipitous and dangerous moment, in a massive crisis of meaning, and this kind of shared psychopathy seems relevant.
Crisis of meaning. Yes. What does it mean to live a good life? And it may well be that these measures, these instruments that we measure economic well-being, people who call it poverty, is not relevant to the crisis of the present. I mean, it's always relevant, to be fair. Save people. We have to thrive. If you don't get people are in pain, they can't thrive. It's just stated as such. But the reality of the present moment may be something different. Spiritual crisis, lack of meaning. What does it mean to lead a good life? What does that mean? And when I say it, people, and again, I only have this country deeply embedded here, so I have this as my reference point. They confuse a good life with happiness. And hedonic happiness, is, I'm sure you study Schopenhauer, so you go from happy to wanting more happiness to happy to wanting more. Hedonic happiness is a dead end street. It's nice and it's good, but eudaimonic happiness, as Aristotle called it, is something that's much more nourishing and is the source of a good life. So we have to each of us figure out what that meaning is for us. And there's some people have thought about that for thousands of years, and there are people that have suggested certain things. We might return to some of that, perhaps.
The inward generation of joy compared to the external application of pleasure is a confusion that seems to have been with us some time. I was chatting to someone about Epicureanism. Epicurus was kind of got associated with pleasure seeking, and someone explained to me recently, no, he wasn't about pleasure, he was about, when we start talking about pleasure over joy and transient happiness, which can easily commodified, is very distinct from the generation of independent joy coming from within, joy in your nature.
You said independent joy. I have the opinion, I may be wrong about this, but I've always noticed that real joy tends to be a shared experience. It's something that people have together, or at least it's amplified in such a way that it becomes more substantial when it is experienced with at least an other, if not many others.
That's a fair assessment, although sometimes when I think of Yogananda, like he's talking about there being an ever-present bliss that we're blocked off from because of layers of samskara and layers of injury, and I try sometimes to contemplate what what's meant by the kingdom of heaven being within. So there's no doubt, I don't want to double down on the kind of individualism that we are applying, and I reckon that there's a certain joy that couldn't be derived from relationship and service, but the idea that what I'm trying to establish and to explain is that as a recovering addict, the idea that pleasure is going to come from the outside, whether it's behavior like through sex or through food or through heroin or alcohol, that I can consume somehow pleasure rather than through service and good conduct, through right conduct, joy will be generated as a byproduct rather than as the aim.
Isn't right conduct something that is in short supply also? Kant's first principles. So just, I always think it's kind of amusing. I mean, is first principles, of course. The behavior can be judged as universal principle, which is essentially another way of saying behave in such a way that people can see all your choices, as though there's a camera going at all times. And guess what, everybody? Now there is a camera going at all times, so you are going to be judged. So you might as well fall in line.
Okay, before you answer the next question, Doctor, I have to tell our beloved viewers on YouTube, we need you to join us. We need you to be a part of this movement whose views on Joe Power, the agenda of the week, brilliant ones on excess deaths, on farmer protests, and more importantly, perhaps support our work so we can grow together. So in particular, Doctor, do you consider a seismic occurrence took place at the commencement of the pandemic and the regulations that were imposed and the attitudes around vaccine mandates? Was that a pivotal moment in modern history? Did it reveal something to us?
I believe it did. It certainly revealed something to me. Not just a something, but a lot of things. And it's so funny when when thinking about how you frame it, you identify your program as stay free. I thought to myself, gosh, my entire career, I used to tell people to stay well. But my shift because of COVID has been stay free also. And that is astonishing to me. That I always thought that was a foregone conclusion. And the fact that we have to stand up and sort of fight for that is just astonishing to me. Who I talk to, I mean, I was thinking about some of the interviews I used to do on HLN and CNN. I used to interview white supremacists. I used to interview people that are way out there just to see what they're all about, learn what I can from them. Now you're not allowed to even speak. You're not allowed to show. Like, what is that? Who I talk to is, and by the way, I was thinking about like Joe Rogan when he got treatment for his COVID. His doctor gave him ivermectin and a monoclonal antibody.
Oh shit! Better turn it down.
2 NAD infusions. And the press, of course, freaked out about the ivermectin. The NAD infusion was the really interesting thing, and outlying treatment. That was outlying. No one has ever suggested that, and it seemed to help him. And I thought, wow, how interesting. And whatever the hell he does with his doctor is his effing business. Between the two of them, it's nobody has any business even directing their attention in that direction, let alone commenting on it. It's disgusting. It is disgusting as people feel it's
in my lane
to intervene and to have
nobody's here now
to try to disrupt basic relationship, basic liberties. That's mind-boggling to me.
It became hysterical, it became political. They were unable to constrain themselves. There was a concerted legacy media effort to shut him down, to silence and smear and disgrace him. They dug up things from the past about him, his use of profane language. It was extraordinary how that was coordinated, and it revealed the degree of authoritarianism that, as you said, Doctor, we assumed was off the menu. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, you care about individual freedom and free speech. Well, no, that isn't what's happening anymore. That's not the dynamic.
Who knew, right? I did never imagine that who you speak to with somebody who was more regular, or that they would. Again, this is the mob stuff. This is mob. This is scapegoating. This is guillotines. This is framing the world as pure. It's a religious model, really. It's gone bad, right, in terms of organized religion. It's just come into this sort of social construct. And it just like it in the French Revolution. You were never pure enough.
It's so foggy.
So you had to go on the guillotine. And by Republican, I mean somebody who supported the New Republic. They were called Republicans. So first you're the Jacobins, and then all the Jacobins got their heads cut off, and by the Sans-Culottes, and then the Sans-Culottes and Robespierre got their heads cut off by the Royalists, and then the Royalists got put in prison by Napoleon. It was one thing. It does not go well, everybody. You are in the interest of all to stop now. Stop this nonsense now.
Doc, is this a good time for us to talk about the wellness company that are promoting and are partnering us with our content today, and that I believe you are affiliated with? We've already done a promo for the wellness company for the medical kits, where in the event of an emergency, you would have in your home necessary medicines, including the controversial, as well as the variety products. Can you tell us what that kit is and what, in particular, what your affiliation with it is?
So I'm a member of their chief medical board. There is a variety of physicians on that board with differing opinions. We're not all in complete unison on everything, but we all agree that the physician-patient relationship has been adulterated. We were just talking about Joe Rogan and how people tried to adulterate his relationship with his doctor. The physician is powerless in this country right now. So I am interested in empowering patients. They should have access to things that they know how to use, that are simple to use, that we can teach them to use. They can have backup with telehealth. There's more efficient and certainly much less expensive ways to do that. And that's what the wellness is about. There's many more things to come. Pay attention. We have some other readiness kits coming that I think you'll be amazed by. That when you think about it, of course you should have these things on hand. They're easy to use. You know how to use them, and I'm just proud to be a part
Trying
of
to read that
organization. I'm a paid member of that board, and I'm happy to be part.
It's not prepper type stuff, then. It's necessarily.
Yeah, it is great weather to escape the cops. You're right.
Antibiotics, antivirals. You think
shit?
It's sort of
You get
thing for people to have.
an eighth of a mile ahead of them, and they can't see you anymore.
I think. Look. My wife is lucky because if it's an after hours
very foggy,
and her physician's unavailable.
It's been like this for the last 2 days. It's worse now, but
there's certain things that are just so easy to use that people should just have. And I've thought when people travel, I give them a batch of medicines. I teach them how to use them. Here's how you use these things.
Yeah, look at that. The guy's headlights just popped
and
up.
Guess what? I've been doing that for 20 years. Never been a problem. Guess what? Our travel kits are coming next.
So we said there'll be things like antibiotics, antiparasitics, medicines that are likely to be useful in the event of a variety of kind of common conditions.
Common, urgent, and after hours. No, for God's sakes, don't go to an urgent care where you pay for all that real estate, all that equipment, all this. Pay for that when you walk in there. It is our system could be infinitely more efficient. This is an attempt to bring it that way.
Oh, brilliant. Well, we'll post a link for that right now, and I guess we're doing some kind of discount. I would hope, given that we are like affiliated in some way, but we'll post that right now. Thank you, Doctor.
I think the days of getting away with that are gone.
Subject of excess deaths.
They don't generally catch you in the act anymore. They get you later.
Well, take this example. There's been an 8% increase in excess deaths among children in the United Kingdom. It's difficult to countenance that means there's a higher likelihood that your own children are going to die. Why is this? And I saw recently a Channel 4 documentary that, interestingly, one of the companies that attacked me recently, in conjunction with other legacy media organizations, simultaneously working together on their investigation. But when they were talking about
I would just like a stable enough connection to where I can actually show you guys. Are just
people are just dying.
Stream a screen
every single comment
cast of my.
We know what this is. Everyone knows what this is.
Of my dash cam.
What's happening, and why is there?
This is not even. My stream isn't even a dash cam. It's just a mounted phone.
That is the bigger mystery, right? That's the part that is nefarious, concerning, egregious. Your country is beginning to have some hearings on this in the parliament, though it's just getting started. I've watched some of that. They're being done well and properly and thoughtfully and non-hysterically. And we have to be open to any and all explanation. My own belief is, my suspicion is, I shouldn't say belief because it is science, my suspicion is we're going to find that the real culprit is the spike protein, however you are exposed to it. So the more exposure to spike, the more we're going to see different.
Yeah, guess what's in the mRNA vaccine? Protein.
Hard.
Yeah, that's going to get me gigged.
And of course, the vaccines, that's what
luckily, it's just a backup channel.
We'll find out. But it is.
I already got a warning on this channel.
The astonishing is that there are more people dying in this excess death pandemic than died in COVID, and yet we shut the world down for that. What is going on here? I'm not saying on any given day there's more people dying. I'm saying the cumulative effect of excess deaths persisting year in and year out.
No, you can get them installed.
COVID.
Most places that do
forget
like the auto starts and stuff like that will do dash cams for you now too.
No country doing it. This is the astonishing thing to me, that the whole world.
In fact, my wife, I had an auto start put in her car, and they really had to push at Christmas time for
Now maybe
Same
they're
brand
feel the
of dash cam.
government, maybe it's the medical system that has to come up with that, and we take a long time to
It's not that hard, but it's
the evidence of.
they do it a whole lot cleaner. I got wires all over the place, so
Who's going to
but
pay for the
I don't give a
studies?
shit.
How's
long
it
as it's
going to
working.
get done? I mean, obviously, pharmaceuticals not very interested in it, so I think government's going to have to step.
A good brand is called Drone, DRONE, Drone. It's a bit expensive, but they work great. That's the type of auto start I put in her car.
Definitely.
I think that's what I got her last Valentine's Day.
Certainly after the elections in the summer. So
you know what?
Kind of
maybe that's what I'll get her this Valentine's Day for her car. Get her a dash cam
as well. And obviously, being a skeptical person, I can't help but think that some powerful interests are being.
Thought about it for Christmas, but she wanted some other shit, so that's what she got.
And on that subject, Anthony Fauci has gone from being a sort of a hero, a very deliberately portrayed in that manner as well, from late night talk shows holding dance numbers, and we were all invited to the door. Anthony Fauci, he proclaimed himself as being the science, commerce, and he also said publicly that people, when the right measures are imposed on them, will lose their ideological BS. I wonder if you think that irreparable damage has been done in the institutions that surround American medicine.
Ain't nobody around though.
CDC,
got Connecticut plates. That's weird.
Due to Fauci's conduct and some of the odd financial relationships around that time.
Well, again, a lot packed in.
Hardly ever see Connecticut plates around here.
And I don't know about irreparable damage because they were adulterated and we didn't know it, and thank God we know it. So maybe we can do something about it. Maybe. The fact that it had gone so far in a certain direction.
I said for me, it's not hard for me, okay? I use that specifically. But that's what I do for a living, you know, is the IT. So my wife couldn't even do it.
I'm not allowed even to allow a drug rep into my office to give me a pen with a drug name on it. And yet these guys go back and forth between and amongst each other and share each other's jobs. And
my wife's actually pretty.
You got it. This
up on technology. I mean, nothing.
Number one,
but she didn't go to school for it. Like
Dr. Fauci's been my hero.
She doesn't take continuous training like I do. Fucking, I'm every week I'm doing another little continuing education credit thing, and I get to pick the ones I want because the ones I'm interested in, things that I'm actually going to use. You know, there's a lot of them out there that
millions of dead. And I dutifully.
Well, I take that back. Some of them I know are going to be super easy, so I pick them anyway.
They were all going to get AIDS. They were all equally likely to get it.
Just because I know it's basic stuff. But when it comes to like what friends and does, I can't do any of that. I can't code for shit. I can't write code. I can't write HTML, which is what websites are built on. I can use HTML tools to make a website, but I can't write the raw data,
100%,
which is needed.
Not a 1% fatality rate, a 100.
So I can get you I can put you a basic website up. It's gonna look. I guarantee you, there's a high school kid that can do it 100% better.
So there was a degree.
That's why whenever
never wrong, by the way. So there's that.
The rehab company they do.
Hit, the things that I got criticized for were obviously, when things go viral, I'm sure you've known.
I took French in high school.
It's always what somebody says you say. It's never what you say. And of course, no one ever comes.
Only times it ever came into use was with my second wife. I could tell when
they keep saying
my mother-in-law was talking about me.
Other than what you've said.
She didn't even speak English.
It's just insidious. It's disgusting.
French Canadian.
That's how things go viral. And when things went viral on me, the one thing they always cut out of my comments was the thing I actually got wrong. Because the thing I actually got wrong was at the end of every comment I would say, please just listen to Dr. Fauci, listen to the CDC. They've been guiding my career. You can rely on these people to get us through. And I believe that until Dr. Fauci was in front of our government and they asked him whether Dr. Fauci, you closed down church practices out of doors. Is it okay to go to a political demonstration? And he looked and he went, I don't know what you're talking about. And I thought, he's been adulterated. Something's wrong. This is not the same man. So what is going on here? And it just went from on and on and on from there. So I kept expecting him to go back to his baseline, reversion to the mean, but it just it kind of never happened, and it sort of was a misapplication of some of the same strategies we used back in the AIDS days. It's a different time. Those strategies are not useful and not good. Probably weren't good then.
Extraordinary and frightening, I would think, to be in a position where necessarily, if you're a medical profession, you have to operate within institutions, because institutions, when they're good, are their housing of expertise.
You ever had one of those
but institutions, when they are bad, are
Jelly Bellies? The vomit flavored Jelly Belly? I can't even finish one.
Almost experienced that metastasis.
They get the fucking booger ones. I'm like, wait,
Yeah.
how did they figure out what booger tastes like?
Evolution, and like I said, it went from stay well.
And how did you, who the fuck was sampling that and going, nah, that's not quite booger yet?
And part of that is looking. But then I started looking at a lot of
vomit. Everybody knows what vomit tastes like, you know. You throw up in your mouth once in a while.
I read the journals religiously, carefully, and all of a sudden, during COVID, all the science went one direction. That is not science. Then science is a back and forth, and it kind of.
There's the other flavor that I love popcorn. You know, movie popcorn, buttered popcorn. I hate the buttered popcorn jelly beans, man. It's almost as bad as any of the other ones.
But Annals of Internal Medicine about 2 years ago,
you don't eat a jelly bean to taste buttered popcorn.
Budesonide, about fluvoxamine, about alternative treatments for early COVID. I thought, oh, my Annals of Internal Medicine, which they're showing the full spectrum of what's out there. But remember that Danish study that showed that a small percentage of the initial rollout of the vaccine was responsible for 90% of the adverse reactions. I don't know if you know that study.
What's up, Dirty?
Great study done by a Danish researcher and physician. It took her 2 years to get that published.
I'm only like 5 minutes away from the office, so
2 years to publish.
I'm not going to be doing a desktop stream because I'm not going to be at the office very long today. I got a haircut, then I got a business dinner before I have to go to the factory. I may stream from the factory tonight. But
what led to incidents of catastrophic incidents? Yes, that's astonishing that there were so many examples of the narrative being controlled.
It's all right, brother.
And
Claiborne was asking, he's like, where's everybody at? I said, well, what normally happens is everybody jumps in right before I'm done driving. So it's, unless it's a long drive. Sure shit, that's what's happening. But that's okay. I'm glad you made it.
What are your opinions, Doctor, on, well, it's quite a lot of questions, disease X, mRNA slippage, SV40, and the New Zealand whistleblower data? Maybe the whistleblower data. What do you think about that? Because
oh man, the wife would flip out if she's seen that. She loves pickles. Pickles.
I've heard that figure elsewhere.
I pulled that.
She's not that big of a fan of sweet pickles, but
I don't know what to make of anything. I just know we need to continue to look and examine and try to figure things out. Not get hysterical on any front.
And I like cranberry juice, but I don't like cranberries.
It's not about being right. It's about trying to get to a clear understanding of what's going on here. I don't know if you saw the Austrian study that came out also that Renee Prasad put on Twitter, which was
basically because you put a ton of sugar in cranberry juice.
Really interest your audience, it seems to me.
Or whoever makes it.
We did not.
You gotta add, they're so sour. You gotta add a ton of sugar to them. Even like.
We did not observe a significant vaccine effect from the fourth vaccine dose, COVID-19.
Cranberries at Thanksgiving and stuff. Those things have tons of sugar in them.
Meaning vaccine did no effect. And they observed no individuals younger than 40 years died of COVID-19. So why are we getting vaccinated at all? And this is the thing. Let's say the risk of myocarditis is 1 in 50,000. It may be 1 in 800, but let's say it's just for the sake of argument, it's 1 in 50,000.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to get gigged.
Zero.
Lucky this is the backup channel.
Any risk?
I'm going to get the old medical misinformation.
Why are pushing so hard? Especially we know the spike protein is the pathogen. By the way, we have other vaccine alternatives. What about the vaccine? What about whole viral alternatives? Why don't we, if you want to push vaccine, how about those? Why this one? And why only this one? Weird, right? And then how do I give informed consent to a 22-year-old? How do I do that when all of it is obscured and obfuscated, except to say, look, you recently published data suggests your risk of death is 0. Do we want to talk about potential adverse effects of the vaccine, given that your risk of death is 0 from this illness? I don't know. I don't know.
For me, it seems like it was an extremely revealing period that I obviously come from a different world in many regards. So there are crossovers in our experience.
Guys, love you.
But for me,
I may be back on much later today, but I hope you have a great day. Thanks for riding with me. Even those that made it late, if you want to check back, I'll have the whole stream back up. Had a decent conversation with Claiborne earlier. Love you guys. Peace.
Generate profit, it will be taken. All of these sort of pre-existing